You want to start out with the board bills?
Yeah. Both of the bills that were endorsed by the Left 2 board passed out of both the House and the Senate. They passed out of the legislature. You'll recall the board voted to endorse the technical correction bill that the Healthcare Authority was working on, and they were very appreciative of the help of the board getting that bill passed. They've been working on that bill for over 5 years, and for a number of reasons, we're not having any success getting it passed, but it passed this year. That bill's already been delivered to the governor, and it's actually delivered to the governor on Monday. So under the, technically then, the governor will have to sign it before the end of session, or it'll become law without his signature. We'll keep you posted if there happens to be, if there is a signing on Friday or Saturday, but since it's a technical correction bill, we're not sure whether he's okay just letting it go into effect without a signature. The remarriage bill, though, has also passed. They waited to deliver that bill to the governor. It hasn't been delivered yet until there's less than 5 days left in session, which means now the governor will have up to 20 days after the end of session to sign the bill. There's some discussion going on about whether he will be able to coordinate the signing of the bill on May 8th so that it coincides with the memorial celebration, which the governor plans on attending. I don't know if that's actually going to work or not, but we will send out notice to all of you when we learn that the bill has been scheduled for the governor to sign. Not aware of any concerns that would create any issue about whether the governor will sign. The only thing that might booger that up is if all of a sudden there was some opposition to the bill that did not come up during the legislative process. But after the bill was amended, support for the bill was overwhelming. Both caucuses supported it. It ended up passing out of the Senate 48-0, and out of both Senate committees that it was in unanimously as well. So the employers no longer opposed the bill after it was amended. The self-directed insurers and the Association of Washington Business no longer opposed it after it was amended. And none of the stakeholder groups voiced any opposition as well. Some of the other bills, Jack, that we had talked about at different times in previous ledge updates, the mandatory offering of the state's deferred comp plan, that bill did not pass. There was pretty strong opposition to that bill from some of the larger employers that only offer one plan, particularly King County and to some extent the city of Seattle. King County really took the lead, and at the end they ended up hiring some high-priced lobbyists as well to try to lead the opposition to that bill. The one thing that did come out of it, out of the process, though, was a lot more information about some of the incentives that these employers were getting from their single deferred comp provider in order to have exclusivity arrangements where the employer would agree to only offer one plan. And that has so I don't think this issue is going to go away anytime soon. I think there's a lot more interest in the legislative branches now, both branches, House and Senate, in understanding a little bit more about how these exclusivity arrangements are working and who are they benefiting. Are they benefiting the plan participants? Are they benefiting the employer? Are they benefiting the taxpayer? how are they working? But that got quite a bit of discussion. Two of the other bills, Jack, garnishing pensions and forfeiting pensions, those did not go anywhere. As I think I mentioned earlier on, Senator Bailey had indicated that she wanted to work on those this interim with the Select Committee on Pension Policy. And when I testified before the Senate Ways and Means Committee, I specifically mentioned that the board would did not want the legislature to pass those bills without giving us at least one interim to try to look at them ourselves. So those will be topics that we will bring to you during the interim and get your will as terms of what, if anything, you want us to do with them. But the bills did not pass. And we'll have a full ledge update, as usual, first full meeting of the interim. One other thing I wanted to say on the ledge update before I move on, the budget. Session is going to end here in, I think, Saturday. There is no expectation here in Olympia that the budget deal will be finished before that. None at all. Several of the legislators, particularly in the Senate, want to wait for the June revenue forecast to see if that gives them any extra money, and also to give them some time to work out some pretty significant differences in their budget. I don't believe that creates any concern over the LEOFF 2 rates or the LEOFF 2 plan being fully funded. The rates were fully funded in the governor's budget and both the House and the Senate budget. It may create an opportunity for further discussion about the payment to the benefit improvement account from September of 2013 that was not made, and also the payment that is due in September of 2015, which was not in either the House or the Senate budget. Personally, I'm not overly optimistic about that, but at least the extra time creates some opportunity to try to reintroduce that issue. On the administrative side, what that I should say on the legislative side, Jack, what that means is we're probably not going to do anything now until the end of sometime in the middle of June, after the revenue forecast. And if everything goes smoothly, they'll have a deal kind of worked out for the most part, except for the final details that the forecast would tie up, if it all works out. So, but what we'll plan on doing is having the May meeting. We'll coordinate with you guys to make sure that that happens. But at this point in time, I think that the May meeting will be the sort of like the first meeting of the interim, if you will, because otherwise we won't have time to get you guys fully updated and briefed on the rate adoption for the remarriage bill that needs to take place. We've already hired the outside auditor to begin auditing the actuary's fiscal note on that bill. If the board is briefed on it in May, then you could take action on any rate increase that you may or may not want to approve in June. And if you do approve a rate increase, it'd be ready for July. But if we wait until after the legislature's done in June to have our first meeting in July, you guys will be kind of behind the eight ball to already to start the interim. So that's our plan right now. Regular meeting in May, regular meeting in June. On the administrative update, the final budget for the last quarter's budget report was sent out in the materials to all of you. The agency's still under budget. We're going to finish up the biennium under budget. But if you have any questions about anything on there, I'd be happy to talk with you about it. Outreach activities. I mentioned right now I'm in Vancouver at the Washington State Council of Firefighters Education Conference. We've got there was a presentation yesterday on the ombudsman, the roles and responsibilities of the LEOFF 2 ombudsman. Tammy Harmon is out of the office right now, so I was filling in and did that presentation along with the self-directed ombudsman from LNI yesterday afternoon. It was very well received. Coming up in before our next board meeting, I'll be making a presentation at the National Conference of Public Employees Retirement System, and I'll be on a panel talking about stable rate policies. There's a lot of interest around the country in what you guys have been doing here in Washington to keep your rates so stable and without underfunding the plan. And then the Washington Association of the Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, or WASPIC anyway, will be having their Spring Expo in May. We'll have a table there. The next meeting is May 27th. And as I mentioned, I think right now all the board members and staff should plan on that being a full meeting, even though session won't be done. We will have the ledge update in terms of everything other than the budget that's happened and what didn't happen. We'll talk about sort of give you the items that are on the table for the interim, and we will give you the whatever we have as far as the preliminary results of the audit on the actuary's fiscal note for the remarriage bill, but an introduction so that as much as possible, so that you can be prepared to take action on that at the June meeting if you choose to do so.
Do you have any preliminary numbers on what the cost is?
The state actuary's fiscal note identified a total cost of 14 basis points, Jack, which would be about 7 basis points for the member. And then, but one of the questions, as you'll recall from your last board meeting when the board adopted rates for the next 2 biennium, given the funding status of the plan, you guys sort of, you made the choice to leave the rates where they were at and continue to be stable, knowing that would just be, eat into the surplus that's in the fund right now a little bit over the next 2 years. Given the size of the cost, those would probably be off the top of my head the same 2 choices that you'd have. Either leave the rates right where they're at for the rest of this biennium and then look at changing them for the next biennium, or moving them up to reflect the cost of this bill. The actuary's fiscal note, they kind of got jammed up a little bit because the bill was amended in committee and then passed out 3 days later. So the actuary's fiscal note, they had to put it together pretty quickly. Every audit that we've had of their fiscal notes in the past has indicated no issues, but I'm curious as to what the audit of this one will come up with. So things, for instance, when we looked at this issue a long time ago, Jack, we sort of looked at the likelihood of these people remarrying, mainly just based on their age. What percentage of people get married when they're in their 50s or in their 60s or in their 70s. The actuary took a slightly different approach. They found a study that showed how the likelihood of people getting remarried after divorce. And even though they understood that divorce is different from a line of duty death, they felt like that study and the results of that study was more reliable, and so they based their assumption on that. And the results of that study showed that I think 40% of the spouses get remarried within 4 years of divorce. I don't know that that is necessarily a good correlation between with line of duty deaths, and the auditing actuary is going to give their opinion as well as to whether that is whether something else which could be more expensive, but at least whether something else would be more accurate. And then it'll be up to you guys to decide whether or not, based on the information that you have, whether you want to tweak the rates for the next biennium or just leave them where they're at. Those will probably be your two choices in June.
Well, that comparison doesn't make any sense to me. I don't agree with that at all.
Well, there was some other things that they struggled with too. For instance, the idea that they would get remarried within 4 years. For a lot of these surviving spouses, the line of duty death was more than 4 years ago. So initially, their assumption was that 34 of the spouses would get remarried right on the effective date of the bill. And then they realized, no, that's not realistic. And so they changed it to say that 34 of them would get remarried within 4 years of the effective date of the bill. And I think it's fair to say that there are a number of spouses who would be interested or in getting married now, but for the financial penalty. And so I think there's going to be some marriages here, but I don't think it's going to be 34. And that is right now the primary cost driver is under this new approach to the bill, the primary cost comes from the surviving spouses that already exist remarrying. So that assumption is kind of a key assumption for the current fiscal note.
Okay. On a couple of your other legislative update bills.
Yeah.
I guess I have some concerns with employers who are in a position to dictate where the employees put their money, and then they're making money off of that. That doesn't make any sense to me. It almost seems criminal from my perspective that they're able to do that.
Yeah, there were a number of legislators who reacted with questions to that as well. So, for instance, in Seattle, Seattle's deferred comp provider rebates a portion of the fees that they collect from the members to the city in order to offset the costs of the administration of the program. The cost of the administration of the program comes out of the city's general fund. So the rebate from the deferred comp provider is just basically they're cutting a check to the city. And at the very least, then there was some question about how do you account for that? Because at least on its surface, Jack, I think a number of the legislators also reacted the same as you. On its surface, initially, it certainly appears that the members are being charged a fee, or that some portion of the fees that are being charged by the members is just being collected by the provider and then rebated back to the employer in exchange for the agreement to only have one plan. I think even if legislation doesn't materialize, it may be as well that the increased understanding of sort of what's going on now will lead to deferred comp plans being more something that's talked about more in the bargaining process. One of the things that the employers said in response to this is that they felt that these plans were best for the members. And so some of the legislators were like, well, why not let the members decide what's best for the members? And you know how it is, Jack. A lot of these things, especially if they're only offered one plan, the members, the workers out there have no idea about what other features might be available from somebody else's deferred comp plan that they don't have, or what the fee comparison might be. And I think a number of legislators also recognize that as kind of a hollow argument, that if you only give them one choice, trying to say that they are happy with that choice, you can't really make that argument.
Well, it looks to me like they would at least have to disclose how much the plan was costing each member, and give them the number of what they're taking from the money that they're putting into the system.
Yeah, and that's part of it right now is I think the legislature wants to get a better understanding of exactly how much money they're talking about. But we did testify, for instance, that, I shouldn't say testify, as you'll recall from our board's presentation, the 10 largest left employers all have exclusivity arrangements. So this, particularly with larger employers, this practice has become very common. And the details about how these arrangements are structured and who's getting what is just now starting to come to light. When we asked for this information, Paul worked hard on this topic for the board. When we asked for this information, the employers were reluctant. None of them provided it. When the legislature,
I wonder why.
Yeah. But when the legislature asked for it, they don't have that same luxury of refusing to provide the requested information. So this stuff, the info is getting out now. And whether that leads to legislative change or whether that leads to change that's generated by the members through the bargaining process remains to be seen. Apparently down here, for instance, in Vancouver, the Vancouver firefighters bargained to add the state's deferred comp plan as a choice.
Through the negotiations process.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll hear more on that. The other two bills, the 6076 and 6077, I think that people also need to understand, or the legislature needs to understand, that when you have families involved in these work jobs, careers, whatever you want to call it, they also have contributed to the process when half of the contribution rates are coming out of their pockets, even though there may be a felony conviction or some push for garnishing wages or forfeiting a pension. Those families are a part of this organization as well, because they too have a stake in the pension plan. So I would always oppose that without some kind of consideration for them.
Yeah, when the Senate committee had their hearing on the bill, Jack, I testified to that point as well. This is an issue that seems to pop up every 6 or 7 years. There'll be a case that gets in the press. In this case, it had to do with a teacher who was convicted of a felony, and there was a report by the Freedom Foundation, and they were talking about why is this person still getting their pension, and why isn't their pension being garnished in order to pay for the cost of incarcerating this person. And at the hearing, I pointed out to them, others did as well, there's already a piece of statute that allows pensions to be garnished to cover for the cost of incarceration. The judge can order that already, and that process takes into account the potential interests of spouse, crime victims. In a number of cases, the person's pension is what's being used to provide restitution to the victim. And so forfeiting that pension or taking it away from the family or the victim just adds more problems rather than solving anything. That, I think, the complexity, and if there's already a process in statute, why do you need to create a new process? That is the part that I think the legislature had not fully understood through, the media certainly didn't understand that there's already a process. So if the process wasn't used in this particular case in Seattle, why not? And, is this a problem that's already been solved, if you will?
Okay.
But we'll follow up on that, and I'm sure Senator Bailey will have the select committee working on that. We'll be working on them during the interim, at the very least, to stay abreast of what they're doing.
Sounds good to me. You have anything else?
No, that's it. A couple of items for the interim that we'll talk about at the May meeting when we give you kind of the preview of the interim, but there's no need to go into all that right now.
Okay, Paul, do you have anything?
No, I think everything's been covered pretty good here. Some of the concerns you had about the forfeiture of pension and things like that, I think that I would tend to agree with you on that there are often families involved who were innocent victims of this, and they need to be provided for. So if there's already something in the law provides for some of these garnishments I think that why reinvent the wheel? So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Okay. Well, if we don't have anything else, I guess we can adjourn, huh?
All right, May 27th for the next meeting, and then we will send out an audio or a link, email to all the board members with a link to the audio file as soon as we've got it up on the computer.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Paul.
All right, you guys. See you later.
See you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.